Elon Musk's mindset can help you tackle super difficult problems in life that you encounter, and it's very likely to help you achieve your goals. Elon Musk, the founder of the aerospace company SpaceX and co-founder of the electric car company Tesla, has employed a thinking approach based on fundamental principles known as first principle thinking to address every problem. Elon Musk was born in South Africa. By the age of 17, Musk had immigrated to Canada and later to the United States, where he pursued dual majors in physics and economics at the University of Pennsylvania. After obtaining his 2 bachelor's degrees, Musk moved to California to begin studying for a PhD in applied physics and materials science at Stanford University. However, just after 2 brief days, he decided to drop out.
Nice.
According to Fortune, at that time, Elon Musk began to explore and realize the potential impact of the internet on the world, which he believed was greater than the pursuits in physics research. Therefore, despite his passion for science since childhood, Elon Musk decided to pivot towards the internet. In a book about Elon Musk written by author Ashley Vance, it is mentioned that Musk wanted to capitalize on the internet boom, and he convinced his brother, Kimball Musk, to move to Silicon Valley to start a business. Here, Musk founded his first company, Zip2, and later sold it for over $300 million just 4 years later. Afterward, he used the proceeds from the sale of Zip2 to launch an online payment service called X.com, which later became PayPal. Musk then sold PayPal to eBay and left the company with $180 million. Many months before the eBay deal was completed, Musk was on a beach in Brazil, but retirement was not on his mind. He was reading a book about rocket propulsion. The man who co-founded PayPal was now setting his sights on space. Musk founded SpaceX with the audacious goal of expanding life beyond Earth, turning humanity into a multi-planetary civilization to avoid the extinction of the human species. Musk stated, "The candle of consciousness is likely to be the only one in the darkness, so we'd better conserve it. If we can land on other planets, human consciousness will be expanded significantly compared to being stuck on one planet and potentially being struck by an asteroid and destroyed." However, when attempting to buy a rocket to send spacecraft to Mars, he was shocked. In the US market, these 2 rockets were priced at a staggering $130 million. Therefore, Musk decided to explore the Russian market, but the price Russia offered was still exorbitant at $21 million per rocket. Even for a millionaire like Musk, the cost of a rocket to launch a spacecraft was still too high. However, high costs did not deter Musk from pursuing his goal. He deeply understood that he had to try something different. Musk began employing first principle thinking to analyze the problem. He refused to accept that rockets inherently had to be so expensive. So, he broke down the rocket into its components and examined each raw material that made up the rocket. He looked at the prices of each material in the commodity market for comparison and realized that a rocket was priced at least 50 times higher than the cost of its raw materials. If humanity wanted to reach Mars, a complete overhaul of rocket manufacturing technology was necessary, and that's how SpaceX was born. And in today's video, we will together explore the concept of first principle thinking. This video might be a bit long and challenging, but if you're patient enough to watch it to the end and persistently train this mindset, you'll find that most of the problems you've struggled with in life, work, or study that you couldn't solve before, you can now tackle them with confidence and certainty. So take a deep breath and relax as we begin our video. First, we'll explore what first principle thinking and analogy thinking are. First principle thinking is a way of looking at the world from a physics standpoint, boiling everything down to the most fundamental truths, examining what we know for sure and reasoning from there, rather than accepting the attributes of things at face value. In simple terms, when approaching a problem with first principle thinking, we need to peel away each outer layer to see through to the core essence of the matter. Then, we reason from this core essence to make decisions. However, in real-life situations, we often tend to use what is called analogy thinking. When pondering a problem, such as facing challenges at work, our initial reaction is often to quickly search for similar situations we have experienced or observed others handle in the past and apply them to the current scenario to make decisions. The advantage of analogy thinking is that it's easy, requires less brain power, and following what others have done is a safe and low-risk approach that often works. It can help us quickly access knowledge and make appropriate decisions to solve problems. However, when we make decisions based on comparing ourselves to what we or others have done, we are staying within the shadows of others. It doesn't help us truly understand the essence of the work we are learning or doing. The results produced are often just repetitions or come with errors and are challenging to bring about innovation or significant change. As Peter Thiel, the co-founder of PayPal, pointed out in his book 0 to 1, that copying based on historical experience is meaningless. Peter Thiel writes, "Every moment in business happens only once. The next Bill Gates will not write an operating system like Microsoft. The next Larry Page or Sergey Brin won't create a search engine like Google. And of course, the next Mark Zuckerberg won't build a social network like Facebook. If you're copying them, you aren't learning anything." Arguing by comparison, or copying what others are doing, is akin to becoming a cover musician, where we play someone else's music, whereas with first principle thinking, we go back to the basic raw materials of music. It's those notes, and then we write an original song from scratch. Clearly, building something from scratch is much more challenging than copying. Elon Musk also acknowledges that this mindset requires a lot of mental energy because we have to discard existing beliefs. That's why there are very few people willing to do it. However, when we break down the problem and question everything we think until we find the first fundamental principles, it can give us a unique perspective to solve the problem instead of just looking at it superficially, always doing things without knowing the reasons. And as we can see from Elon Musk, the results achieved are truly remarkable. So, how do we develop first principle thinking? Become a master problem solver using the first principle thinking method. To think according to fundamental principles when we encounter a problem. Making questions is the key to finding the first fundamental principles, because the most crucial part of problem solving is not the method we use, but asking the right questions to delve into the core of the issue. So ask everything. Albert Einstein is believed to have said, "If I had an hour to solve a problem and my life depended on the solution, I would spend the first 55 minutes determining the proper question to ask. Once I know the proper question, I could solve the problem in less than 5 minutes." Elon Musk also expressed a similar sentiment. Questions are often more difficult than answers. If you can properly articulate a question, finding the answer becomes much easier. So, how can we learn to ask the right questions? There is a method called the Socratic method. This is a systematic questioning process to examine our current beliefs and assumptions and to see what is true. There are 6 steps in the Socratic questioning process, as follows. Step 1. Clarify your thoughts and explain where your thoughts come from. Why do I think this way? What am I thinking? Step 2. Critique the answer. Why do I know this is true? Step 3. Seek evidence. Is this certain? Where is the evidence from? Step 4. Consider other viewpoints. What would others think? How do I know I am right? Step 5. Consider the consequences. What if I am wrong? What are the consequences? Step 6. Make the reverse question. Why do I think this way? Am I correct? Using Socratic questions will help you quickly get to the fundamental and the actual workings of a problem. So, whenever we think we know something, ask ourselves how we know that it is true. If the answer relies on a perspective or an assumed knowledge, we must continue to question. When we reach a certain truth, that's when we know we've arrived at the right place to start seeking solutions. There's another questioning technique that helps us find deeper into the root cause of a problem, and it helps us step closer to the first fundamental principles. It's called the 5 Whys technique, developed by Sakichi Toyoda, the founder of Toyota. This technique is quite simple. We just need to repeat the question why after each answer 5 times. The idea here is to be dissatisfied with the initial explanations and instead truly follow the trail until we identify the ultimate source, finding the root cause. For example, here's how Taiichi Ohno, vice president of Toyota, used the 5 Whys technique to determine why a welding robot stopped working. Why did the robot stop? Because the circuit overloaded, causing the fuse to blow. Why did the circuit overload? Because the bearing runs out of oil, so it stiffens. Why does the bearing run out of oil? Because the oiling mechanism on the robot did not pump enough oil. Why did the oiling mechanism not pump enough oil? Because the oil suction hole was clogged with metal debris. Why was the oil suction hole clogged with metal debris? Because the pump did not have a filter. That's the way for him to realize that the root cause of the welding robot stopped working is not due to a blown fuse, but due to the absence of a filter on the pump. Now let's see how Elon Musk used first principle thinking to reduce the cost of Tesla electric vehicle batteries. When Tesla was developing electric cars in its early days, they faced a challenge with the high cost of batteries. At that time, the price of energy storage batteries was around $600 per kilowatt hour, and this cost had remained stable for several years. However, Musk and the engineers were unwilling to accept this reality. Musk thinks from a fundamental principle perspective. What materials are the battery made of? What is the market price of these battery materials? If we can purchase these raw materials and assemble them into batteries, what would be the cost? The answer was that it would only cost around $80 per kilowatt hour. Therefore, Tesla began building its own battery manufacturing plant in 2013. This is Elon Musk's first principle thinking approach. First, not accepting the reality of the high cost of batteries. Then, breaking down the battery into its most basic components, questioning the cost of each component, and then finding ways to combine materials to create much cheaper batteries. In this way, Musk has made commercializing electric vehicles a reality. In the second story, let's see how Elon Musk used first principle thinking to control costs at SpaceX. Musk is extremely focused on cost control. He refused to accept the prices of components offered by suppliers in the aerospace industry and questioned them because they were often about 10 times higher than the prices of similar components in the automotive industry. His concentration on costs and desire for control naturally led to an idea to produce as many parts as possible in-house instead of purchasing them from suppliers, a common practice in the rocket and automotive industries at that time. When SpaceX needed a device for an engine, and the supplier quoted $120,000, Musk deemed it too expensive, as the device was no more complex than a garage door opener. He assigned one of his engineers to manufacture it in-house for only $5,000 each. Another supplier delivered a batch of equipment to SpaceX and then demanded a price increase for the next batch, akin to a painter painting half of your house and then demanding triple the price to finish the other half. Musk did not accept this tactic and decided to do the work himself. After a while, about 70% of the parts used in SpaceX rockets were produced in-house. This allowed effective management of both the cost and the quality, as well as the speed of production. The production cost of rockets was already expensive, and on top of that, they were single-use items, non-reusable. Rockets took months to manufacture, flew into space, and either burned up in the atmosphere or crashed into the ocean as debris. Both the United States and the Soviet Union invested tens of billions of dollars to research the reusability of rockets, but no one found a solution. NASA's space shuttle was believed to be reusable, but ultimately failed due to the prohibitively high costs of refurbishment. If we think with a similar mindset, one might argue that if NASA couldn't achieve reusability, how could we? However, Musk argued that such thinking was a mistake. The only basis for opposing reusability was the case of NASA's space shuttle. However, it was only the space shuttle that had issues. Not all spacecraft were inherently non-reusable. In December 2015, the first stage of SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket, after delivering cargo into orbit, successfully landed vertically back on Earth. They demonstrated that a rocket booster could be reusable. Since then, SpaceX has refurbished and reused many recovered rockets, launching them back into space. What was once considered a daring and improbable experiment has now become commonplace. Innovations driven by first principle thinking have significantly reduced SpaceX's costs for space flights to less than 1/3 of the original expenses. The third story I want to share in today's video is about Amazon's CEO, Jeff Bezos. Jeff often tells a story like this. I'm often asked a very common question, which is what will change in the next 10 years, but very few people ask me a question, what will not change in the next 10 years? This second question is more important because strategies must be built on an unchanging foundation. If you can find something that won't change in the next 10 years, you should put all your resources into it. And what he sees as unchanged in the history of retail is unlimited selection, lowest prices, and fast delivery. The entire Amazon is built on these three simple principles. Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, two innovators following Steve Jobs, both think from first principle. So if you've made it this far, let's try practicing first principle thinking for a few minutes. Take some time to think about a problem you've recently encountered. Write down all the reasons why you think this problem is difficult, and then for each reason you've identified, ask yourself, how do you know that's true? And keep asking that question until you have an undeniable knowledge base. The truth is, you may not solve the problem on the first try, but if you persist, you'll find much better answers. The more you practice, the more natural this way of thinking becomes, and the less we'll blindly accept standards. In summary, the process of first principle thinking is essentially like peeling an onion. We are removing layers to get to the core of the problem. This way of thinking helps us come up with breakthrough solutions for problems, but it's also quite challenging to practice. However, novelty cannot be created through old methods, right? So whenever we encounter a problem in life that we can't immediately solve, instead of seeking others' opinions, we can try to think from the first principle basics. Believing that we can solve a problem, questioning current assumptions using Socratic or 5 wise methods to dig deep into the issue requires a certain determination. But it's a choice we're willing to make, so we'll have the motivation to follow through. As long as we're curious and willing to think about the essence of the matter, it won't be difficult to identify the core factors. And the more we practice, the more this process becomes automatic. Because in reality, we are born with the ability to ask appropriate questions to better understand the world around us. Continuously thinking about the essence of things, constantly simplifying complex matters, and finding the origins behind these complexities. Another thing is to never stop learning every day to expand our knowledge in different fields. Many innovative inventions are the result of using knowledge from various disciplines. Only when we have a vast treasure trove of knowledge can we ask the right questions, and only when we understand the fundamental principles of different fields can we have the opportunity to combine that knowledge to create even more innovations. If you find this content helpful, don't hesitate to give me a like and follow. Or if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please let me know in the comments below so that I can improve the contents in the next videos. And I am The Simplify.